Здравствуйте, друзья! Здравствуйте, Наргиз! Это Айдана, вот Буртанского совета. Мы с вами только онлайн встречались пока на переписке.
Здравствуйте, Айдана.
Сейчас вот мы подождем, пока все подключатся, чтобы проверить связь. Но, как я вижу, вроде у вас все хорошо.
Встреча будет на английском, да?
Да, встреча будет на английском, да. Вот у нас будет фасилитатор из Алматы менеджмент университета. Это наши партнеры по Creative Spark. И Дана Шайахмед будет фасилитатором, она является нашим чемпионом. Вы вроде тоже, да, являетесь чемпионами Creative Spark в Азербайджане, да?
Да.
Угу. Здравствуйте, Наргиз.
Здравствуйте, добрый день. Разия, здравствуйте.
Здравствуйте, Исхам.
Да, давайте подождем всех остальных.
Да, конечно. Сколько участников всего ожидается?
У нас будет 5 участников, получается. Один с Казахстана, один с Узбекистана, один с Кыргызстана, и вот вас двое с Азербайджана. Sorry.
Да, ничего. У нас такая же ситуация.
Да, у нас тут дети, мы все из дома работаем, к сожалению.
Да. А слушатели кто будет?
Слушатели будут в основном, получается, участники Creative Spark программы, университеты, вот наши партнеры с региона. Также будут бенефициары, в основном наши, кто участвует в программе в основном. Ну, также еще мы открытую делали рекламу на наших социальных сетях, поэтому как бы все welcome, кто сегодня подключится. Надеемся, наше сообщество в Казахстане растет, креативных предпринимателей, активистов, поэтому мы надеемся, что побольше людей подключится. Но у нас будет запись. Эта запись будет храниться у нас на YouTube-канале, мы его будем размещать на наших Facebook-страницах, у наших вот коллег тоже в других странах. Поэтому, если вдруг у вас будут кто-то, кто не смог попасть, они смогут посмотреть.
Да, отлично.
Вот. Сейчас должны уже все подходить. Здравствуйте, Салика. Так, и мы вас видим и слышим вроде.
Здравствуйте, меня слышно нормально?
Да, нормально. Здравствуйте, я вот Айдана из Британского совета, с кем вы переписывались. Очень приятно, что вы подсоединились. Сейчас мы еще ждем всех коллег. Еще у нас 3 спикера будет. Вот сейчас уже на линии есть с Азербайджана коллеги, Разия и Наргис. И сейчас еще подключится коллега с Узбекистана, Саид, и Sayasat с Казахстана. Но Дана нам лучше скажет, когда он подключится.
Ну, получается, все спикеры русские спикеры? Почему мы собираемся говорить на английском? Русскоговорящие, ну.
Просто проблема в том, что, к сожалению, в нашем регионе, вот Wider Europe, у нас вот регион так называется, куда входят 7 стран в британском совете, это вот Азербайджан, Казахстан, Кыргызстан, Узбекистан, Армения, Грузия и Украина. И вот в некоторых странах не разговаривают на русском языке. Ну, то есть в Грузии и Армении не все говорят на русском. Но в Азербайджане, по-моему, тоже не все. Не знаю, точно, коллеги, наверное, лучше подскажут.
Нет, даже если они не говорят, они понимают. Ну, вообще, как бы
Да. Мы к тому, что у нас из-за того, что вот ивент региональный, мы его так называем, из-за этого нам приходится на английском его вести.
Ясно.
Да. Но у нас будут внутри, так как вы же являетесь, ну, Кыргыз-патент является, скажем так, партнером тоже программы, то у нас будут и мероприятия, которые будут на русском для вот стран Казахстана и Кыргызстана. Поэтому там тоже поучаствовать. Ну, сегодня вот. Это просто, чтобы аудиторию увеличить. То есть мы говорим на английском. И также наши коллеги из UK, получается, партнеры университеты, они же британские, поэтому там, к сожалению, для них тоже полезно услышать о опыте, о развитии креативных индустрий в других странах, в регионе. Так как, допустим, университеты-партнеры UK работают в какой-то стране, но они, ну, допустим, в Кыргызстане работают, вот вы с Коксарк же в основном, да, сотрудничаете? Или с Энактусом. Ну, и, по-моему, с теми, да, у тех Кавентри, у других Сити. Допустим, Кавентри, они еще в Украине работают, но, допустим, они про Казахстан не очень знают, про Азербайджан не знают, Армению, Грузию. Поэтому вот это для того, чтобы повысить осведомленность UK стороны тоже. Поэтому здесь такой большой mutual benefit для всех. Вот. Сейчас уже, надеюсь, наши коллеги остальные подключатся, и потихоньку мы приблизимся к времени. У нас будет запись. Эта запись будет доступна на YouTube-канале нашем, мы разместим, и на Фейсбуке будем делать промоушен. Ну, мы обязательно оповестим всех спикеров. Если вдруг кто-то там не смог присоединиться или ваши коллеги хотели повтор посмотреть, то будет такая возможность. Так, кто-то подсоединяется.
Я просто тут не совсем в теме. Айдана, а вы где находитесь? Здесь, в Кыргызстане?
Нет, к сожалению, мы в Казахстане.
В Казахстане.
У нас один офис на Казахстан и Кыргызстан, он находится в Казахстане. Но мы сейчас все дистанционно работаем, поэтому мы как вообще не в офисе.
Мы везде, да?
Да, мы везде, так что большого плюса от того, что мы сидим в Казахстане, нету, наверное. Все равно все дистанционно.
Но с одной стороны, это удобно, что мы можем там экономить деньги, там не ездить друг к другу, как-то вот провести, но все равно онлайн оно что-то теряется.
Да, ну мы, конечно, надеемся, что наши ивенты будут проходить офлайн. Вот Creative Spark раньше была конференция, которая проводилась раз в год, и она проводилась как бы для всех стран. То есть все собирались со всего региона, они собирались в каком-то одном городе, допустим, последний раз в Оксфорде вроде собирались. И вот как бы это, конечно, гораздо плодотворнее. Дана, это вы тут пишете? Ди, это вот кто? Я просто, мы вот еще ждем, получается.
Айдана, здравствуйте, это я, Динара из Нархоза.
Динара, здравствуйте.
Извиняюсь, мне Дида выскочила, сейчас я посмотрю.
Да ничего, я думала, это вдруг кто-то из спикеров. Окей. О, Саидазим, здравствуйте. Так, вас не слышно?
Я через аккаунт, я через рабочий, походу, зашел, у меня MDA Ташкент написано.
Ничего страшного. Но главное, вас видно и слышно, в принципе, ничего страшного. Спасибо, что подключились. Да, вот уже почти все коллеги собрались, у нас только остался спикер из Казахстана, но я так думаю, что он подключится ровно в 16:00. У нас вот фасилитатором сегодняшней беседы будет Дана Шаяхмет, она вот является представителем, она является директором Центра креативных индустрий Almaty Management University. Они являются нашим партнером в программе Creative Spark, и Дана, она является нашим чемпионом в Казахстане программы Creative Spark. Вот. Вы, как я знаю, предприниматель, у вас там такой большой послужной список, у вас много всяких регалий, но вы в программе как бенефициар, да, участвовали, наверное? Или вас приглашали?
Я в программе, на самом деле, именно... Какая программа, извиняюсь?
Creative Spark.
Creative Spark. Я участвовал как гость, у нас было пару сессий, прямых эфиров, вот, а в самой программе именно как участник я не принимал участие. Там, я знаю, насколько там есть... там нужно что-то делать, какие-то задания, там какие-то...
Ну, у нас
не было.
Мне кажется, я вас видела, вы принимали, наверное, в In Conversations with Entrepreneurs, да, у вас было вот...
Да, совершенно верно.
Да.
Да.
Я потому что видела вас в рекламе в одной из. Думаю, да, у нас, получается, это региональная программа Creative Spark, она проходит в 7 странах у нас, в Азербайджане, в Узбекистане, в Казахстане, Кыргызстане, в Армении, Грузии и Украине. И вот эта данная беседа вообще, вот это We Talk, это получается Wider Europe Talk, да? Это для того, чтобы чтобы наши страны и наши партнеры, которые участвуют в данной программе, и не только они, а все, кто, допустим, занимается креативным предпринимательством или вообще интересуется развитием креативного предпринимательства, чтобы они как бы обменивались опытом, узнавали вообще, как работают партнеры в других странах, что вообще там происходит, потому что сейчас, допустим, в Казахстане и Кыргызстане у нас прямо сейчас в этом году началось сильное развитие креативных индустрий, большое внимание получили со стороны государства, и поэтому мы хотим вот узнать, как, допустим, в других странах это проходит. У нас проходит беседа на английском, я так introduction на русском делаю, просто потому что у нас вот участвует для того, чтобы наши партнерства, так как там участвует британская сторона и, допустим, там, узбекистанская сторона и там и другая, да, любая сторона.
Какая у нас вкратце программа сегодня? Вот как это будет происходить?
Вот фасилитатором будет наша Дана Шаяхмет. У нас будут вопросы, которые мы вам предварительно отправили вот, по поводу креативных профессий, по поводу развития вообще креативных профессий, какой у них статус в вашей стране и какая значимость. Насколько сейчас они развиты, то есть, допустим, насколько поддерживается вообще сообществом, обществом, да, как насколько сегодня будет вот приглашенный гость у нас тоже с казахстанской стороны, Sayasat Nurbek, он расскажет тоже про казахстанскую сторону, да, какая у нас здесь ситуация, но и еще про креативные профессии, вот. Поэтому наш фокус будет креативные профессии и их как бы статус и значимость в вашей стране. Вы как представитель сможете нам, я думаю, рассказать.
Просто по очереди, да, будут все говорить.
Да, у нас будет фасилитатор, да, наша Ахмед, сейчас вот она уже на связи, просто она сейчас, видимо, с другим спикером отрабатывает. Она будет вести, фасилитировать, и модерировать, и задавать вопросы, и всех приглашать к ответу. Что, да.
Общая продолжительность час, да, будет или?
Ну, 2 часа получается. Ну, мы так, в общем, конечно, взяли. Мы надеемся, что это будет не так долго, но в любом случае, чтобы все успели сказать и высказаться, и как бы, так емко рассказать развитие креативных профессий в стране вашей, мне кажется, будет...
А это вот все будет куда-то транслироваться или это закрыто?
Не-не-не, то есть мы делали открытую рекламу, это будет, запись у нас сейчас идет, она будет у нас потом доступна в YouTube. Здравствуйте, Sayasat. Вот наш спикер еще финальный из Казахстана подключился. Это будет доступно в YouTube, мы потом сделаем рекламу на наших Facebook-страницах Британского совета по региону, ну, по всем странам, да, и будет доступно, вы сможете поделиться ею, вам же также ссылку мы еще дополнительно отправим. Вот так. Да, постепенно. Здравствуйте, Sayasat.
Айдана, добрый день, да. Я единственное, что это у нас все на английском, на русском будет, что-то я не сообразил.
Да, сори, у нас просто introduction я так быстро сделала.
Окей.
А так вообще будет на английском, да. У нас сейчас вот Дана с Алмаю университета подключится, и, вернее, она уже на связи, она будет фасилитировать дискуссию и будет задавать вопросы и как бы представлять всех спикеров. Дана, вы уже с нами здесь или еще нет?
Здравствуйте, коллеги. Good evening to everyone. This is me finally joining in. I'm really happy to see my colleagues and the guests of our event today. I'm also terribly sorry for for joining last minute. However, being a moderator, but I have a really honest excuse. I have been teaching this course with my students. I think they hear me right now and they're on Teams and they're listening to me, and I hope they have the link to join this beautiful event that we are organizing today with British Council. And my name is Dana Ahmed. I'm the head of the Creative Industry Center at Almaty Management University. This is one of the first events that we are organizing this school year, and allow me to take this opportunity to congratulate our colleagues, mainly who work at the universities with the start of the school year. Even though most of us working online, I really hope that we're gonna have the opportunity to connect to each other offline at some point. And an interesting topic that we have decided to start this year with is the way how we see creative professions in our countries. And I think we all have this Soviet background that we all know of, that our just give me a second. We all know that during the Soviet period, all the creative professions were kind of felt as the non-financially sustainable professions. So if you're a singer or if you are an artist, you probably are you're not guaranteed with the high salary, and this is the question that really bothers not only young people today, but mostly their parents. And this is one of the topics we're going to cover today. I'm going to use really the opportunity to welcome our speakers today. And the way this is going to be organized is that I'm going to probably just introduce one of the speakers and ask one of the questions, but please feel free for speakers and for those who are participating with us just to join in at any point, raise your hand, and I'm going to give a word to you. One of the reasons why I'm working with this creative industries is that I truly believe in creative professions. And one of the reasons why I so strongly believe in these creative professions is the lecture by Sayasat Nurbek that I attended maybe 4 years ago, where Sayasat said that creative professions are the one that's going to be leading our future, because he really, right now he's working on studying the professions of future. And of course, I want to ask Sayasat, one of our first speakers from Kazakhstan, to share his thoughts on why he thinks the creative professions will develop further on in future from the scientific kind of point of view. Sayasat, please introduce yourself more and share your thoughts on this topic.
Oh, thank you, Dana. Thank you. And thank you. And welcome to our roundtable regarding the future skills and future jobs. My name is Sayasat Nurbek. I represent a national project called the Atlas of New Professions and Competencies and Skills. Let me really quickly overview our project. I'm also head of the company called BTS-Education. We are one of the leading edtech companies in Kazakhstan, and hoping to take some of the projects and edtech products we're developing to the regional level as well. But let me quickly go through some slides to give you a more general understanding of what we're trying to do. If you look at the changing landscape of labor market, you would see this is the issue that is becoming more and more important with every year, and you wouldn't find a single government and international organization not having like a special research unit, department, or an index of the future of jobs, future of skills. A lot of governments are now trying to build their own research frameworks or toolkits, like Singaporean government, for example, with a very comprehensive, very complex program called My Future Skills Singapore, where every Singaporean citizen $500, which he can spend annually to obtain a certain skill, upskilling, reskilling, limited to the skills that are important in the economy. And there are many countries who are now focusing on upskilling programs. And there are basically three major trends that are pushing labor markets all throughout the world. One is demography. Kazakhstan is a good example of that. We had over 1 million babies born in the last 2 years, which is putting a lot of pressure on the market, which is a good example of that. Last year, 2020, we had almost 425,000 babies born, but only 37 new jobs created, 37,000 new jobs created. There's a huge disproportion. That's the second trend. Global economy, regional economies, national economies are not able to create jobs in traditional sectors of the economy in big numbers. It is becoming a true challenge for any national or regional economy to create new jobs. And the third and the biggest, the most powerful trend, the force pushing the labor market is technology. I mean, it's being, if you look at an industrial level and the research level regarding the changing landscape of labor market, the pace of automation, so on and so forth, you would see now, they're ubiquitous. The digital technologies are now pushing, changing, transforming every single industry, even traditional industries like agriculture, like tourism, whatever. So basically, what we can see on labor market, there are two big trends. One, the jobs that existed are disappearing now. There's this retiring jobs phenomena, transforming, or there are whole new sets of new skills and competency frameworks that are appearing on labor market, which never existed before. And the second interesting phenomenon, life cycle of a job is now diminishing. It used to be back 200, 300 years ago, a job would appear on the labor market, would grow, would mature, and then slowly go out of the market, and it would take centuries, it would take decades. But now it's taking several years. I mean, there are jobs that go as fashion. So our research is an attempt to create on a national level simple, applied research frameworks that can be used by any government or regional government to understand which jobs will appear on your labor market, be it regional or national, in the next 5-10 years, which ones will go out and slowly disappear. We built our methodology based on International Labor Organization's recommendations back in 2008. The ILO created a special department to deal with the assessment of the changes on labor market. And back in 2010, the G20 summit in Toronto recommendations to come up with a strategy, a skilled workforce for strong, sustainable, and balanced growth. And based on this recommendation strategy, we've built a methodology, a toolkit called the Skills Technology Foresight. We've adopted it to regional level. We've incorporated several other methodologies like the David Autor. He's the famous researcher at MIT with Department of Economics, and he's focusing on labor economics. And there's this famous Autor's curve, which allows you to understand really quickly how these technology factors would transform. We did a very big pilot project in Kazakhstan on mining plant, which is one of the oldest mining plants in Kazakhstan. In Russian Empire is 100 years old. That's 7,000 years. And that pilot project, gave us opportunity to hone the methodology, and we've come up with a certain map of new changing professions on this particular enterprise and this particular industrial organization. And we were able to build a complex upskilling and reskilling education programs for this particular plant. So that's the David Autor's curve. I'm going to finish the methodology. I'll leave room to as many discussions as possible. We can come up and talk about methodology, but in a nutshell, it allows you to understand how three major relationships appear or transform or deform. It's the relationship between a working environment and a toolkit and tools, and by how different forces shape or transform or deform, make this relationship disappear or form new relationships, you can actually new transforming or disappearing skills and jobs. So David Autor is that famous MIT professor. So we're using partially his stand. In Kazakhstan, the Atlas was launched by the decree of the president. We have finished the first stage last year, and we're now starting the second stage. The first stage was focused on 9 priority sectors of the economy. These are the largest, the biggest sectors of economy, which are declared by the government priority. Mining, oil and gas, agriculture, transportation, IT, mechanical, tourism, energy, and construction. But this year, Dana, for your information, we have convinced the government, and thanks to the Danat Jumin's efforts, he's the special envoy of the Prime Minister on creative economy, we are launching, we'll start preparation for launching separate creative economy and creative industries. But these 9 sectors, we've come up with 463 professions, detailed description. I'm going to send you the link to the Zoom chat so you can have a look your findings of the atlas. It's done in 3 languages, Kazakh, Russian, and English. So we have full access to the ins and outs of the research. We have 239 new professions, 95 transforming, 129 disappearing professions. I'll give you. Atlas is now used in 3 major areas. One, a complex assessment model for the future of labor market and labor force. We are working very closely with Ministry of Labor of Kazakhstan. And 2, it is used as a professional career guidance, a professional orientation tool for the high schools and secondary education in Kazakhstan. So we've approached the ministry with a very complex model, how to use Atlas for everyday career in high schools and primary and secondary schools. So now from next year, every high school and secondary school in Kazakhstan will be using Atlas and some of the tools we developed for everyday career guidance counseling. And number 3, Atlas to upgrade the existing curricula in vocational schools and universities and higher education, and also to create new curriculum development, building new education programs for the vocational schools and universities. This is some examples how we use it, how we use the Atlas at national level, massive career guidance tool, tool to improve labor market forecasting and resilience. And I'll come back, I'll finalize for the creative skills, and really just wanted to give you in a nutshell what's the whole idea of the Atlas. And example of new programs. So drone operators are important in the mining sector, in the oil and gas and construction and agriculture sector. We've started this year. I mean, this is a very new program which started on 1st of September academic year in Hromtau Mining College. It's a vocational school in Hromtau, in this mono city in west of Kazakhstan, in October region. Provides basically education for these big mining corporations like Donskoy Gog I mentioned, and Kazkhrom Corporation, and it's a lot of to retrain and train their specialists in drone operations. So we've started a program where the mining people, the blasting specialists, experts are now trained with a special module and training drone operators. And this is it can be used in many operations, from blasting, monitoring, to the mining operations in mining sector. The program is done based on a triple helix model. Henry Iskivit's triple helix model. It is fully based on a needs assessment and skills assessment of these employers. It's an experimental education program. Come up with special algorithm. We agreed with Ministry of Education. So now every college in Kazakhstan can take Atlas, take a new skill or new skills, and build an experimental curricula based, bypassing this very complex academic bureaucracy, which is normal for any education system. I'm going to bypass that really quickly. So, this tool can be used by many B2B sector for big corporations, by many companies. And now we are working with a lot of big companies, not only in Kazakhstan, but also we presented the toolkit to Ministry of Labor of Uzbekistan, where they use the Atlas and new professions to build maps, future career maps for their professionals, and to build training programs to upgrade them. Just to give you an example, if you're interested, we are open to any discussions. We are happy to share all this and research methodology. We believe we build a solid, which is very applied, which can be used by any corporation or any country. And let me finally go and give you a couple of examples of some really interesting skills and jobs and creativity, it comes to the front page, right? Because talk about innovation, and innovation is this big new word. The article about innovation, it is the most frequently word in all these big magazines, the BCG, Harvard Business Review. But when it comes to the key to innovative process is the actually critical thinking and creativity. The big corporations, they are really good in innovating, but when it comes down to the deeper it goes, that's where the innovation stops, because you really need to start with curricula, with primary school curricula. That's where you need to train creativity and critical thinking, because the main idea with this technology, this technological wave, there are only three things where people still excel: the AI and technologies. Thinking. That's where we are much better than AI, or we are much better in many algorithms that can process a lot of information. But when it comes to sarcasm, when it comes to humor, when it comes to understanding what's wrong and right, what's human and what's not, that's where we have a very unique advantage: critical thinking. And two is creativity. This really great article, I'm going to send the link that there's this with writing articles generated by AI, right? New York Times, Washington Post, the big newspapers, they use AI to generate a lot of content. But one of the key experts in the area says it's a road to perdition, because if there is more AI generated content, which is learning, and this algorithm will learn from original content written by people, by creative, with certain context, who come up with emotion, who put this content, this article in certain life situation, that lived through situation. They share their emotions, they share their point of view. And the idea is, the lesser is the original human written content and more of the AI generated content, the lesser is the social base these algorithms can learn from. So it's a road to perdition. But saying, oh shit, I'm sorry for language, but this algorithm will learn less, because they cannot really successfully learn from AI generated content. They have to learn from human generated content. So that's where the creativity really kicks in. You cannot create something really human without being human. You cannot put it in a certain context. You cannot add emotion to it. You cannot add through experience to it. Like, I was walking down the seashore the other day, and it's really remarkable moment in my life where I had my dad, who was alive back then. We were walking down, and he said, and this human touch, which you cannot really regenerate from the AI point of view. And third, and the last but not the least, is the emotional side. You cannot, emotions and emotional intelligence is the biggest gift of all, it might be, because it really gives you that human perspective. It really can put color to any factual information, any fact that is happening, to any that is happening. It gives you that you don't only observe the fact, or you don't observe the event, you add an emotion to it, and that emotion spread across your audiences, and it moves the audience, or it creates another emotion, a counter emotion, and that's how we perceive the information in reality. And these three things really that cannot yet, and thanks God, yet it might remain not yet remain yet, but differentiate the content that we create from AI technologies that are coming in. So what we try to do, I'll send you the link. I'm going to stop here, so I'm not taking too much time. Please look through it. We try a full picture for many, many industries. What is changing? Why this industry is changing? What are the forces shaping that change? And it gives you very detailed maps of different professions that are yet to come, like for refabrication of spaces and territories. Yes, there's this big, huge industrial spoiled, demolished. Can we refurbish this territory, bring it back to human existence? Can we, and cities grow, right? And the Soviet cities especially, they used to have big factories, huge industrial zones, very cities. But as cities grow, there's this zones that are engulfed, and Dana knows really well. Almaty is a good example of that, where this big factory zone, industrial zone is engulfed, swallowed by the city. But can we refabricate back this? Can we zone? And it needs a lot of a human and emotional side, because to make this industrial, alienated industrial zone human again, it really needs a lot of creativity, a lot of this critical thinking, emotional and creativity. This free competitive advantages only humans have to refabricate, and it gives you a very detailed map of which artistic creativity, environmental thinking. So these are the elements of creative thinking and creative skills and creative industries in many, about 70% of these new jobs that we have very depicted and described in detail. Please use our website, and there's a lot of, you can also the atlases, they're also in 3 languages. Oops, sorry, I'm having a bit of an internet problem. Yeah, and you can download the atlases, and there'll be a lot of detailed information. So I'm taking out too much time.
No,
right?
thanks a lot, Sayasat.
Right.
This is really something that I think moved my head, I think 4 years or 5 years ago when we met. And I think as working at the university, I think research and detailed research of professions is something that really needed to the society, to a person generally, but universities crucially need this in order to kind of decide on the perspective of their strategy. And we have here as our guest speaker a representative from a university, Razia Ismailowa from Azerbaijan, and she is the director of development at Khazar University. And I would like to ask Razia, in the aspect of what Sayasat had represented, in the aspect of fast-moving market of professions, and especially creative professions, how do you see the role of the universities, and how your university adjusts to do a change of the reality? How do you kind of manage this change? If you are here connected.
Yes, I am connected, and I can see myself at least. Thank you. Thank you for the question, and thank you, Mr. Nurbek, for extensive presentation. That was very interesting and insightful to listen to you and to get to know what's happening in your country in terms of, creativity and innovation you bring into the educational system, and in general, that policy level changes. I think the point is here that in former Soviet, post-Soviet countries, there are lots of changes like this during this last 30 years. But if you look, especially in Azerbaijan, for example, if you look at the policy level, or for example, at the infrastructural level, there are lots of changes. And in terms of innovation, technology transfer, we kind of starting to build the ecosystem. But many things, I would say, is fragmented. And when we talk about ecosystem of in this case of creative industry, we mean lots of collaboration, horizontal and vertical collaborations, especially those collaborations should come down, as Sayasat mentioned, to the education system and should be embedded into the curriculum of high school or elementary school. And when, for example, in Soviet times, we had certain boundaries at schools. We've been taught what we have to think and what we should know. And then later in 10 years, all of a sudden we've been asked to become a creative person. I mean, you cannot build creativity on those things when you are building boundaries or a frame. And then in 10 years, you've been asked to become creative writer or creative person or to create a knowledge. This doesn't work this way. What I'm saying that when you build the ecosystem, in this case of a creative industry, it should be built as a system where actors, for example, the state, education system, and the industry are working collaboratively rather than fragmented from each other, which means that the changes in education system should be driven by the industry and supported by the policy or national policy. And only in this case, we will be successful of building ecosystems. And what we do particularly at my university in Azerbaijan, Khazar is a private university. And from the very beginning, we've been teaching in English. And we've been partnering with, dozens of hundreds of universities around the world. And creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship as a subject was there at the curriculum of Khazar University for different studies, not only for economics and management. This is actually what we are trying to do, that contributing to the employability of our graduates, that they are not left alone or left without job once they are graduating from the university, but they are provided with better ability of skills, knowledge, and ability so that they can build their own business as well if it's needed. So then if you have more detail, please.
Thank you very much. This is a really important insight. And I think the role of the government and the role generally of decision makers, people who make decisions on a government level right now, is crucial for a lot of countries in our region. And I'm really grateful watching how Kyrgyzstan is working with their creative entrepreneurs, creative people, and I'm happy to ask Salika Urakeva from Kyrgyzstan's Kyrgyz Patent, a governmental organization, to share her experience and share generally the work, information about the work that you are doing right now on the governmental level, because this is a really crucial you are a real crucial player in all this ecosystem. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this opportunity to participate on these talks. Thank you, colleagues, for your presentations. I'm trying to express the point of view of Kyrgyz Patents, the Agency of Intellectual Property and Innovation under the government of Kyrgyz Republic. Today's world practices creativity for advancement and betterment. We see every day that the creative economy generates significant GDP and revenues. The engine of economic growth in Kyrgyzstan has traditionally considered export-oriented industrial manufacturing economy, which has proven the capital intensity and over a very long period of manufacturing industry and production. Under the changing economic scenario, the strategic goals for our economic development is to transition quickly to fast-growing and less capital-intensive and innovative solutions. It's determined the support of new export-oriented and innovative sectors of the economy. In the National Development Strategy of Kyrgyzstan for 2018-2040, in Kyrgyzstan, there is no specialized classifier of subjects of the creative economy. indicators and parameters of creativity. The creative economy embraces and intertwines with concepts such as intellectual property and innovation. The general creative professions are the creator, producer, promoter, sales manager, because we should sell the idea or we earn money by our intelligence. Those professions are required in any direction of creative economy. The sector of the creative economy of Kyrgyzstan is represented by the following areas of creative industries. Publishing activities, 16% of all creative activities. ICT industry, 12%. Music, low than 5%. Photo, low than 5%. Communications, 9%. Architecture, 15%. Advertising, 20%. Design and fashion, 5%. Art, 15%. Cinema, 9%. Science and research and handicraft, lower than 5%. Kyrgyz Patent is the registering government institution that implements IP and innovation policy. Registering intellectual property objects are inventions, utility models, industrial designs, trademarks, appellation of origin, copyright objects, computer software and databases, traditional knowledges, innovational proposals, selection achievements. Kyrgyz Patent is a member of work group on creative economy and supported projects and startups. Business entities engaged in creative activities are classified as small, medium, and micro enterprises. Sectors such as advertising, ICT industries, architecture, publishing, communications industry, certain types of art and cinematography operating in the segment of the entertainment and recreation industry are actively developing in Kyrgyzstan. This is due to the growing demand for products from the creative industry and the active digitalization of institutions. How the government is going to develop the creative direction? There is the project development, which called concepts of creative economy development in the Kyrgyz Republic for 2021-2023. This project is funded with the support of the United Kingdom government and implemented by DAI. Implementation of these concepts consists two stages. Stage one, formation of an integrated state policy for the development of the creative economy in Kyrgyzstan. Stage two, stimulating the growth of creative industries of Kyrgyzstan. Kyrgyz patents start by its own preparation of the roadmap of the Kyrgyz patent for the implementation of this plan, because we are members of this work group. As for society, there are creative professions because this is the growth area and almost a requirement to grow. Society recognizes these professions when they bring good results. The younger generation recognizes the profession, understands, and adapts quickly. As for their parents, they are forced to accept and they don't understand creativity because it is a new professional direction. Creative professions involve intellectual work in science and art, where innovators bring ideas to life to improve the quality of life by finding effective solutions to problems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Salikam. We're really happy to hear that you have already approved the concept for development of creative economy, and creative professions is part of it. Kazakhstan is on the level of developing this similar concept in Kazakhstan right now, and I hope with this year the concept will develop, and other educational institutions will catch on this topic and develop it more together with governmental organizations. And of course, the main actors of this concept will be the creators, interpreters themselves. And one of our speaker guests is actually the one who works in the field, who does all the creative job. His name is Sayasat Nurbek from Uzbekistan. He's a creative director, producer, photographer, and international lecturer from Tashkent. If you're here, Sayasat, yes, please share your thoughts on the whole thing that is going on, the interest from the government, the interest from the universities, and how you, as a the real creator, what you can recommend to these institutions, how to work and how to develop your experience in this sector, please.
Thank you, Dana, for a warm greetings. Hello, everyone. I'm Said from Tashkent, and I'm happy to be part of this creative talks today. It's a pleasure to see everyone from post-Soviet countries and Britain as well. And it's a good time actually to discuss how we all can work and share our experience in the creative fields. I would like to thank Mr. Sayasat Nurbek for the statistics. It's a seldom situation to see how countries are actually doing statistics in the field and tracking what is happening out there. And I'm very much was inspired by the talks by Razia from Azerbaijan, saying that we have to move forward. We have to rethink educational system. We have to understand how the things have to be built on, right? To start with, I can say that Uzbekistan, if you know, Uzbekistan in the Central Asia is the most populous country, right? So we have the highest birth rates, and currently we are having 34.5 million people living in Uzbekistan, which is a huge number for the post-Soviet countries. And our index of growth is like 1% annually, growing 1% annually. And interestingly, 34% of our population are younger than 14. That means that we are very young country, and this is it gives a base for the things. It gives a base to rethink how the young country may bend its strategy to develop a new ecosystem. They may bend it, right? And currently, as a person who actually living and working in Uzbekistan, I see how government is trying to experiment with the local industry. We are currently on an active stage of experimenting. I would call it not a plan, prediction, and execution process in Uzbekistan. We are more act, do, and diversify strategy. It means, so the government is pushing today every single sector to do things more, to implement creative strategies. Government is very much interested to create electronic ecosystem, right? So even before the COVID-19 pandemics, Uzbekistan was moving towards IT industry. We have, for example, I myself, I cannot even handle to track all the programs that are running around me now, because it's not just the one unified program that is aimed to develop some sector and aims to develop some ecosystem. Rather than government is giving voice to all the entrepreneurs in the country to do their own impact to their sector. And it's sort of a game for survival, you know, when you have to just experiment, when you have to show your entrepreneurship skills and act, right? So one of the interesting programs that we are running currently in Uzbekistan called 1 Million Coders program. This is run by the Ministry of Innovation. It's a very interesting concept by itself. It's just an experiment, you know, it's a huge experiment that Uzbekistan undertaking with our population. because we have this capacity, we have these resources, we have a lot of kids that have to find out a workplace tomorrow, right? So the 1 Million Coders program offers a free learning opportunities for kids from 13 years and elder. And it gives 120 hours of distance training on programming. So it means that we are just training everyone, and we assume that there could be a possibility that someone of this population would give some results tomorrow, right? Another projects, for example, I'm working at the Management Development Institute of Singapore in Tashkent. It was one of the first international universities in Uzbekistan that is run by UK and by Singapore. So we are actually promoting British faculties here in Uzbekistan with the help of our Singaporean partners. And for example, we are now working on the fashion laboratory that is sort of an incubator. And many schools in Uzbekistan now practicing building the incubators and startup platforms inside of the universities. That is a huge ground base for this use, right? So we are talking about this 34% of youth that are the massive representative of Uzbekistan, right? And it gives the possibilities for them to experiment in-house, I mean, in their universities, and then go outside and try to do this in an open market. When the TikTok emerged in our market, it was a huge boom of the TikTokers, Viners, and bloggers in the country, because we have this amount of youth who are actually are able to do something, they have this power and passion to do things, right? So it makes an interesting basis to grow a natural competition. You know, this is organic. So we are in our case, a government should not push it as they do now, right? Because of the amount of population in the country, it's sometimes even easier just to let people do their things because competition itself is very high. So there are many people, and they are all trying to create a business. They all want to find out creative entrepreneurship projects, and because we are competing more as well, and it makes this sort of an infrastructure in the country now. If you ever been to Tashkent in the recent years, you will feel this energy, the energy of the competition now, because everyone, especially in the youth sector, everyone want to try to create some startup. Everyone is thinking of the new design project. Everyone to think of the interesting promotional concept, etc. And it really pushes the boundaries, and it makes the country moving forward in the creative industry, because you have to not just to do things right now, but you have to do things creatively in order to compete with your peers. Okay, so I think this is an interesting example. I mean, in case of the things that are happening in Uzbekistan today, we are of course having problems with documenting the processes. I mean, you know, in case of Mr. Sayasat Nurbek, he created a platform that may historically document the process that is going on now in the country, right? So it gives you sort of a understanding of what is happening in the market, who is doing what. It's sort of a analytical, right, part. But you know, I myself, when I started to think of what is going around me now in Uzbekistan, I cannot handle this information because everyone is doing everything. This is sort of a melting pot, and you cannot even track where and who is doing what. For your general information, I can say that 74% of our population is practicing Uzbek language. We are having sort of a decline in the Russian because we moved from the Cyrillic alphabet to the Latinic one. However, you know, it was sort of a unclear stage at the beginning when everyone started to select their own way. Some of the youth, they go and study Turkish, for example, right? We had this, we had a pace in the development of Uzbekistan when we moved to the Turkish side. Then I have a lot of my friends who learned Chinese because they see that the perspective that there's China is developing and there could be sort of projects together with China. And I think today majority of our population are practicing English, and it gives an interesting stage when the new generation is consuming English information from the English books, from the English sources, and this makes a sort of melting pot of ideas and information inside. Because some of us are, for example, I myself, I consume Russian media, and I consume Russian information. I read Russian books, right? So it's easier for me to consume information in this way. Some of my friends are consuming, for example, Chinese books. So they are more into Chinese, Korean culture. They are more engaged with some, for example, TikTok, with the things that are creating there in Asia. And some of my friends who do not even understand English, and they know only they don't understand Russian. They know Uzbek and English, and they're consuming, for example, British books. And they are getting information from that sources. And in terms of creative professions, in terms of a creative industry, I think this is interesting phenomenon today that we are having in the Central Asia, when everyone is consuming information from different points, and we are meeting up together in one place. And it makes sort of a collaborative approach when professionals are having completely different worldviews. They are completely different. We have a lot of businessmen who are working in Dubai, and they are, for example, coming with Arabian approach. And I just to summarize generally, I tried to answer all the questions that were raised in terms of these talks today. I can say that Uzbekistan now, just as a general information, I can say that Uzbekistan today now is on experimental stage. As a creator in a country, I don't feel any pressure or boundaries, and this is an interesting stage because we are sort of open up and we are not limiting ourselves. However, it's impossible to track what is going on around us because everyone is trying to do everything. And for example, we don't have exact statistics. We cannot now track and understand the whole picture, what is going on now with the creative and the marketing or whatever that is going on now in Uzbekistan. I think we have to wait, for example, 2 or 3 years when the market will be, this renaissance of the creativity will stabilize. Some of the startup projects will die out, some of them will survive. So it's sort of a natural competition inside. And I think this is a very interesting strategy and very interesting time to try your, abilities and ambitions in the Uzbek market. Thank you.
Really interesting. Thank you very much, Said. Really interesting on how generally I have this sense from you that the creativity, the whole society in Uzbekistan
emotional, yeah.
They are really under experiment, and I think experiment as a status quo is something that we are experiencing right now in a lot of countries of our region, especially due to this thing with population being really young. And I think even though in Kazakhstan we don't have this much population, the population is pretty young in Kazakhstan as well. And this really influences the educational market. And talking about the change and experience, I myself work at the Almaty Management University. So mainly we teach management, economics, finance, marketing. But this year we have decided to open a media and film school. So we are experimenting as well with creative creative professions, I would say, understanding that there is this huge need in creative producers, people who manage creative professionals, manage creative artistic people. And I think every university is facing this challenge, and it would be really interesting to listen to ask one of our other guest speakers to share their experience and their challenges that they're facing right now with University, Ada University. And here's our guest speaker, Nargis Ismailova from Azerbaijan. She is the director of the Center of Excellence in EU Studies. Nargis, please share your thoughts and experience on how universities adjusts to the changes in creative professions, and what would be your thoughts on that, please?
Thank you very much, Dana. Thank you, colleagues. You know, it was a real pleasure to listen to all of you, despite the fact that we are all from different countries. But it's very interesting how many common things we have together. You know, same challenge, same objectives that we have. So yes, as you said, I'm representing Ada University. We do not have any creative specialties in our university, but we do have very good projects with different universities of Azerbaijan and UK, and also on the Creative Spark project. Our partner was another university, and during the several years, we were trying to monitor the situation in Azerbaijan, what's going on with creative industries. So what is the market now for students of these professions? And as colleagues from Kazakhstan mentioned, we also, you know, mostly for time being, we're concentrated on oil industries and oil sector. But recently, several years, there were different efforts of government to diversify the economy by developing non-oil industries and promoting its competitiveness based on innovation. We have different legislative frameworks in the field of culture, which were introduced in a more entrepreneurial model, promoting management and private initiatives. There was promotion of cultural activities in the region, and also recognition of creative and culture initiatives as a driving force for tourism development. And what we can say that, of course, last 1.5 year, economic impact on creative industries has been among the hardest, since activities such as theaters, live music concerts, all these creative performance places, they were closed. And there were ideas that crisis led a very clear trend in the industry, which is digitalization of this area. As you may know, another website by our government on creative arts was introduced, where all creative industries, entrepreneurs, there was initiative to bring them all together. And also another very interesting thing is the development of Abad centers, which is supporting family-owned businesses in creative industries. This is actually very clear examples of strategy of government in industry development. And when we speak about importance of creative professions in universities, what we can say? Of course, we have very rich culture. We have, you know, our poetry, music, which have played an important role in our national self-identification. And somehow it's leading to building these creative things. And of course, creative industry in Azerbaijan is not yet fully accepted by society, because for many, many years, civil service in Azerbaijan, governmental position, public administration positions, and then after that, oil, economy, this banking thing. So people, society, they think that this kind of professions are more privileged, let's say more profitable. And the younger generation, especially their parents, I think that some of my colleagues from other countries, they mentioned this already, they are not so let's say, they're not preferring creative professions for their children, but for some years, for different years, like very recently, we see that there is a boost in development and increase in number of new galleries, art studios opening across the country, and people, they started to work in that. Another thing, new positions, new specializations in creative areas are recently opening. For example, in our partner University of Culture and Art, they now have a new master program on art management, and this is the show that indeed, so universities, they are trying to increase this creative part in their curriculum, in their education. Again, we have also different platforms which are boosting understanding of contemporary art. Festivals are taking place across the country, showing new talents. So we have young Azerbaijani musicians who are taking prestigious awards on international arena, and young generation seeing all that. Again, they are also trying to, they start to wish to continue their development, their profession in these areas. So mostly like this, that's what I wanted to add on this topic. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nargis. Really interesting. Interesting to know what is going on in our neighboring countries, and you're really right on the fact that we do have the same problems, and the pandemic brought on a lot of problems. And I think the fact that we're sharing our experience right now is really important. What I'm planning to do right now is I'm going to open the floor for questions from our guests. I'm really happy that this event is attended by so many guests, and if you do have a question, please raise your hand and speak it out loud, or I can read on the questions that are here in our chat box. This is a question from Larry. Sayasat, to you, and it says, thank you for an interesting presentation. To what extent do you think the model you have discussed can be integrated within the traditional enterprise sector in Kazakhstan? I'm asking this question because research has it that certain Western models are not workable in foreign contexts, especially in countries with diverse culture and enterprise. Interesting to hear you mentioned Aktobe, city Aktobe, as we have a partner in there. We also have a couple of students whose previous big idea ideas entry big idea challenge is a competition within a creative Spark project focused on the use of drones in monitoring the quality of the air. So I agree with this aspect of your presentation that talks about new types of businesses in the next couple of years. Good to hear you talk about artificial intelligence as well, but then how can local enterprises like that of Said in Uzbekistan involve in photographic creativity use of AI to maximize the profit and give them competitive business advantages within their ecosystem? This is a question from okay. And this is a comment to Razia. You made an important point by saying that you cannot build creativity with boundaries. Okay, if the question is addressed to Sayasat, so Sayasat, yeah. I would like to...
Thank you, Dan. Yeah.
Yes.
It is a very long question, a lot of statements in it.
Yes.
But I'll try to kind of split it into several short statements. So one, yes, the basic research framework, the core of the research framework is based on laws, kind of Western methodologies, but we try to make it as applied, as down to earth as possible. It involves, I missed the slide, I kind of skipped it, but I shouldn't have done that. It involves a lot of local experts. So for these 9 priority areas, we've involved about 2,000 local experts on different areas. So it is based partially on a methodology designed by Rand Corporation called the Delphi method, where you build rosters of experts, right? You build this long list of experts for each sector, for each area. And then you do a lot of cross interviews and a lot of cross references between them. So we also used foresight methodology, a future studies methodology. And I sent a link to an article published in Journal of Future Studies, which kind of focuses more on the methodology side. So it's really not a theoretical research. It's not something that a few people gathered in a room, they think about future skills, or we think about future jobs. No. It is a very localized, very applied research that you do in plants. You talk to all the industrial unions, you talk to the industrial associations, you talk to industry leaders, you have in-depth interviews with all the key experts in that area. Then you have groups of 20, 30 experts in certain areas, and you build 2-3-day foresight sessions with them. Then you do hundreds of interviews, and then you kind of combine everything, and it kind of reflects where the industry is moving to, where the industry is investing money, where the industry is equipping and re-equipping its equipment, its technologies, modernizing its industrial bases. So it's very applied in that sense. And if you're interested, we could talk more about that. And then we believe we could, it's quite universal. I mean, it can be used at many levels. It can be used at national level, like we did in Kazakhstan. It can be used by regions, and we do a first pilot project in Pavlodar region, for example, at a regional level. And it can be used by big companies, by large plants, factories, to have a better understanding how to train and retrain their personnel in 5-10 years time. Number two, the main idea actually of the Atlas is the main focus of the Atlas for the time being is to get the education system, to refocus the education system on needs and changes and demands of industries. We are now, all our resources are focused on bringing the education on board, because what happens, the trick with these new skills and new jobs is that if you need these new kinds of specialists, if you need them today, you had to start training them 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and you needed to discuss and start the curriculum development 7 years ago at least. So the education is always lagging behind, it's dragging behind, it's always late. So we're talking, and remember the Wayne Gretzky, the famous hockey player, he said, well, you're the greatest hockey player of all time. What's your secret? He says, well, all of the players tend to run to where the puck is, and I try to go to the place where puck will be, right? So the main idea is to get education, understand the trends, understand the demands, the new demands of the industries, and try to be on time, right? So that's the main idea of the Atlas. And we're starting about 20 new curricula this year only. And cybersecurity, drone operations, VR, AR, and so on and so forth. Yeah, Dana?
Yes, thank you very much, Sayasat. I don't know whether Saeed and Razia would like to comment anything on this big question. As you are noted in this question, I give you the opportunity, or you can think about it and share your thoughts.
Dana, thank you very much for asking. I think we always, when we talk about creative industries, we confuse some things. We confuse it with, with two definitions, like creative industries when people or the economists create the knowledge and then transfer into the, money. Or the other definition say that creative industries are coming from arts, music, and these spheres. But when we talk about creative industries in the Creative Spark project that's supported by the British Council, we talk about creativity brought I mean, innovation brought by creative people, which in turn becomes an entrepreneurial activity that brings money to people's activities. So from this perspective, I truly agree that there are many things in our countries, as we mentioned in the beginning of this speech, that there are many things are taking place in these countries. The only thing that we need to have it operationalize these activities or integrate these activities, like we talked previously, integrate or this horizontally and vertically, when these all actors are cooperating between each other, so that education is not lagging behind the industry, as Sayasat mentioned in his speech. This is actually killing us, people from the education sphere, that industry is going on and developing, prospering, and the education is lagging behind. There is a certain aspect of distrust between the industry and education system. So this should be rebuilt and reviewed. And I think there should be done some certain review of the entire system. Who are those players, and what are the roles and functions of all those players in this aspect? Let me go back to the question, the popularity of the creative industry. Once the reputation of the creative industry is built, which means that it pays off people's investment, which means that people build a trust in the system, that they are ready to invest their time and energy. Here we talk about the human capital and financial capital. If we review the system, if at the policy level or at the state level, if there are investment high enough to be attractive for talented people, for those who want to share his creative ideas or bring an innovation, whether he is ready to give up his time and energy for something that is not giving up the return on his things. So I think the question you raised in what we have received previously, this is a pure research questions. And truly, we don't have full answers to all those questions. And I think this comparative study can be conducted to see what's going on in our post-Soviet countries in terms of, creative industries and knowledge economy driven by the creative industries. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Razia. Thank you. Dana has a little technical problem. Thank you for sharing your opinion on this. And Said, if you have anything to add to this, you're also welcome.
Yeah, I agree with the fact that everyone is confusing sometimes. The fact that the creativity may find it's like nature in the process designing, right? The way how you think, the way how you design your business processes, etc., and like artistic side as well there somewhere. However, I think that today we are actually integrated. I see a lot of places where the process designing is integrated with the physical designing and I don't know, the creativity, right? It's interesting to see how, for example, in open market, people are trying to coming back to the question and the question asked about the artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence is now in our feeds, right? In Instagram, in TikTok, everywhere. All the recommendations are based on the artificial intelligence. And actually, it's interesting to see in the open market how the creators, well, generally, they are following the system of the social networks to get some result. So in order to get some result, in order to go to these recommendations in the TikTok, you have to follow some rules. You have to understand how algorithms are working. And this is interesting. In my personal opinion, when a kid is doing TikTok, the kid is learning how to interact with systems. It's sort of again, you know, it's a mental process when you are thinking, how to say, forward with your actions. So you understand that if you do this, so there is a possibility that it will go in this certain way. And I think this is a learning that have to go simultaneously with the traditional learning. It should be it's a sort of it's a constant, right? We shouldn't go against this. However, learning by observing and learning the IT industry by trying these technologies is something that changes and completely reflects the attitudes and worldviews of the new generation. So I personally, because I contact a lot with the new generation, with the people, the content makers who are working today, they are, you know, like 13 years old, 16 years old, so they're very young, but they are thinking very smart. So they understand what they're doing. They're not just doing it because they want to have some fun. This is a reason why we have to develop our creativity in all the possible ways. This is, how to say, a recipe for success.
This is me again. Terribly sorry for having these technical problems. Just lights turned off and everything turned off, and I could not fastly reconnect. I'm really sorry for Razia not to hearing you out, and Said, I just hope that we are here right now commenting on the questions that were addressed in the chat room. And if you allow me, as a moderator, I would like to comment as well on the fact that I think our countries generally trying to modify what is going on in the West and try to adjust to the realities of our communities, our countries, and to the question that had been addressed in the chat box. The thing is that I think what we should start doing, or I know already successful examples of that, we are starting to coming up with something of our own. Not talking about the methodology of the research, but something of content-wise, something of in the when talking about the creative professions, something maybe that had been in our communities long before the West became the center of the civilization, as you allow me to put this way. For example, Kazakhstan lately is becoming pretty popular on the international level because of this, because of our music artists. And I think music and performing arts, musical performing arts, is one of the competences, skills that Kazakh population has been developing for a long while in our society. I don't know, maybe this will sound close to you, but as I remember my childhood, I really strongly remember every time the family gathering is there, the songs are being sang, young people are singing, older generation are performing different musical instruments. This was part of the society. And then something changed, a couple of generations changed, and this kind of notion diminished. But when we're talking about education, non-formal education, family education is something that is so important and so important to a person, and it had been there in place for Kazakh communities for so long. It's just we'd never have thought of it as something in a scientific way. We never thought of this. However, music is such a big part of an ordinary Kazakh life. It had been always, and this creative skill that had been raised in almost every child in the Kazakh family is such an important thing when we talk about creative professions and talking about how we copy or do not copy, or how we develop something. I think maybe examples like that exist in any country, and maybe it's time that when we talk about creativity, uniqueness of one's culture, I think maybe it's time to look not on the West, not on the East, but look inside. And I think there's a lot of things that we can find there. If you allow me to comment on something. I think the floor is open for other comments, talking about the professions, talking about the creative professions. There are a lot of challenges that we're facing right now. Maybe there are younger people that could comment that are participating today or ask any questions. Please feel free to do this. The floor is open right now. If not, I do have a lot of prepared questions. And as a university worker, I work with the students, and it is really interesting how they comment the fact of being creative professions being prestigious, being like being wowed on is not really a fact. Wow, he's a financist. Wow, he's economist. Wow, he's a lawyer. She's a lawyer. This really sound really cool in Kazakhstan. However, the situation is changing, and maybe some of the speakers can comment on the fact why and how creative professions can become prestigious in our society, what we as a society should do in order to make creative artistic professions more prestigious. Please, anyone who is interested in commenting.
Maybe I can comment, just not comment, but maybe make addition. Dana, you are absolutely right, and I also mentioned this during my brief, that indeed for many years we had another professions being more prestigious, like lawyers, economists. Many, of graduates, they were wishing to work in the oil sector. But what we can see now, but it's very, very recent, just maybe a couple of years, that we see more people, more profession in creative industry, mostly not as representatives of companies, industries, but as a self entrepreneur. So, and we're also what we can mention and what we see that our entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, mostly they touch upon our some national traditions, some motives. They are trying to bring it alive, to make it again modern. But it's mostly painters. We see people like a fashion designers, again, as I mentioned, musicians. And what I think is important, again, governmental initiatives, governmental support, also universities, promotion of relevant faculties, curriculums. Another important thing is marketing. There should be very strong marketing campaign, in order to break this how to say, I forgot this word in English, stereotypes, and to show that, yes, this industry, this creative profession might be also somehow profitable, so people, they could go in this direction. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I would like to share this experience of my own at the time working at the Nargis University. We had this Creative Almaty Day, an event where we have invited creative artists in different sectors. One of them was photography. And there were different photographers who shared their experience. And even among the photographers, there were stereotypes against male photographers. One of the photographers, she said, well, I'm a lady, I don't have to provide my family, so I'm doing photography, and this is how I earn my money. However, there was a male photographer sitting there, and he said, well, I'm a photographer, professional photographer with 4 children, and I'm happy to provide for them because I love my job, and I really do it the best I can, and I am able to provide for my family and for my kids. So it really the example shows that even the professionals themselves do have stereotypes, and unfortunately these stereotypes and breaking the stereotypes is something that is a measure of time, and we do really need good quality research and good quality discussion and action from the government in order to change this. Please share any other questions if you are interested or in raising any topics connecting to creative professions, creative skills that we're talking right now. Thank you for your comments. Okay, there is a comment from Nadir. Nadir, it seems that creative industries may not be given an opportunity to breathe and develop at a large scale like other sectors. When it comes down to educating people on creative fields, there is an immense lack of perceived value. My question to the speakers would be, what can we possibly implement to create this perceived value to these fields that would be similar to traditional fields? This is a really interesting question, Nadir. Thank you very much. Any of the speakers interested in answering this or giving your opinion on this? How can we make, what can we create, what can we do in order to perceived value, to kind of create or develop perceived value of these fields, creative industries fields?
I think, Dana, we talked about this in our previous session when Sayasat and I and other colleague mentioned about the prestige of the profession and the perceived value for this people from creative industries will be easy to create when you pay good enough money. We talked about upscaling human capital in all these countries, because what's going on at the moment that the other industries like oil and gas, is not a competitor to creative industries, which means that they pay higher salaries, higher return on the people's investments, and people tend to go to oil and gas sector because it pays well. Once, if the question is raised as such, then you have to invest in talents, invest in human capital, and invest in the professions as it's related to the payment. I would like to compare it to the Finnish education system, for example, when they've been making their reforms 20 years ago. One of the actions they have done is that they've raised the prestige of the field, education teachers field, by raising the salaries they are paying to the teachers. So everyone is now wants to become a teacher because it's paid well, and it's not only that. And professional development of all those people is also very important. As you provide the opportunity for them to develop themselves professionally, and they provide these opportunities and also pay. So this is how you can change the perception of people for this profession.
Yes, this is so true. Thank you very much for this comment. Any other comments on this question?
Hey, hello. Can I add? Talking about the payments, obviously, yeah, but we should understand that market is competitive, and that obviously, yes, oil and gas gives more money, they pay salary, but the business itself makes that money. So if art will be able to make people interested in, then obviously the people who works in the art industry will make money. If they can't make them interested, obviously who will buy their work, right? So government here have now no power really to affect to market. What government can actually do is just to create maybe a platform or maybe some sorts of education. So for creative industry. So for example, during the pandemic, for example, Instagram become a very popular. Netflix become very popular. Those businesses start making money, and whoever were involved in those businesses start making money, and they themselves start advertising that platforms. And now we can see that every youngsters, 15, 16 years old, trying to do TikToks, Instagram, and wherever in every corner. So it's not really about how government can help. It's actually all about how can we make people interested in, not we actually, but the people who is in creative, make people interested in their work and make them buy. So it's more about probably marketing and education. We can provide that knowledge, right? To make it commercialize their work. That's probably biggest problem in the creative industry. So that's kind of thing.
Thank you very much, Aloha. Such a important insight that you're bringing. I think this really comes again back to our history, that we are expecting government. We are so used to expecting government solve all our questions and all our problems. And here, just trusting the market, allow the market lead the way and bring the opportunity for creative professionals. If you allow me, I would like to add my comment also on this. As you probably know, creative industries and creative entrepreneurs are oftenly working as a shadow economy, so not really showing their real income and not showing the real level of salaries, especially in Kazakhstan. And I think this is true to our neighbors as well, because if you're organizing, for example, a big celebration, family celebration, and you just invite a artistic team to perform, you're probably gonna be paying them in an envelope, giving them money, and not paying officially by payment. And this is so true. And maybe some of our creative professions do really earn a respectable number of amount of money, but we don't really see this in statistics as we see, for example, in oil and gas fields. So bringing, I don't know what should we do in order to change the situation, but this is true, and some creative professions really pay up well. Dear colleagues, we have been talking together for 1.5 hours. We have additionally planned another half an hour. However, if there are thank you so much. Thank you, Nadir, for your question. Really interesting responses that we got. Colleagues, if you would like to bring on some topics on this, some other issue, other aspects of our topic that we're discussing right now, this is the time to do this. If not, I think it is okay. I have checked with our colleagues from British Council. It's okay if we round up a little bit later or earlier. Sorry, and I am happy to kind of resume on what we have discussed. I'm really thankful to all the speakers for your time and for your input. I cannot find Larry. Yes, please.
I'm so sorry. I cannot find the icon to raise up my hand. Is Said still there? Because if he's still there, I think it would be a very, very good idea if he can briefly tell us how he was able to scale up his business in terms of finding funding and then scaling up. Because most young entrepreneurs, they do have this problem. They have the brilliant ideas. Think about the big ideas competition. Every year, we receive about 50,000 ideas. or then it's only probably 1 or 2 or 10 of them that becomes a real business. But if, we can encourage students to scale up their business, look for funding, maybe through mommy and daddy's bank, right? And, looking for funds through different means. So how did he raise business capital for his business? And how was he able to scale up his business? Is he still online?
Thank you very much, Larry. Thank you for speaking up. And I'm happy to give word to Said if he's here and can answer this question.
Dana, I think he had some technical problems and he just he was he's not here right now. Maybe he will join later, but maybe somebody else can address Larry's question.
So the question is mainly on how to kind of scale, what is the next steps for creative entrepreneurs in our countries to kind of take a next step to scale up their business. There are good ideas up there in the air. However, scaling up is a challenge. What could you comment on this? And find funding. This is a really big question as well. I can comment on what is going on in Kazakhstan right now, because a couple of years ago we have, with a team of British researchers, we have carried out a mapping of creative industries. And additionally, we tried to figure out what governmental funding or any commercial funding is there for creative entrepreneurs. And unfortunately, we found out that government mostly does not identify creative sector as one of the priorities. So I think the changes that are going on right now in Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan by signifying that, by specifying what are the creative industries are. This is the first step for developing funding opportunities, because if you are not listed in this list of priorities, for example, of potential sectors that should be supported by government, you cannot get the support. And I think this is the first step that our governments are taking right now, and I hope this will help them to kind of to scale up, because the commercial funding, a regular funding in a kind of world understanding of getting a for example, getting a loan in the bank is something that the creative entrepreneurs, generally entrepreneurs in Kazakhstan, are really afraid of, because, as mentioned by someone, mostly creative entrepreneurs are micro, small, or medium businesses. So they are not actually oftenly eligible. So there are not enough financial instruments to provide funding that can a regular creative entrepreneur look alone. They cannot just take it because they are not eligible for this big loans. Unfortunately, the financial system in Kazakhstan is still developing, and I think this is true to a lot of other countries. This would be my comment.
May I add here?
Yes.
Basically, generally for entrepreneurs, funding is like a crucial question. Yeah. So if we if we will not divide the creative industry as an industry, but just small and medium businesses, what they can do, at least in Kazakhstan, there are lots of fundings and subsidies for the small and medium businesses, but it's a general. However, because it's a general, the competition obviously is high. In order to get through that competition, the creative entrepreneur should be a little bit business educated. Should have some business education, should have some common sense really about the incomes and expenses and how to calculate. And I'm working with the creative people right now, and I'm find that when you start asking them questions, so what do you think, how you're going to earn money? The question is earning money become, for some of them, for example, artists, for example, like painters and designers, for them, it's a kind of difficult question, I guess. They feel uncomfortable with that. But some creative industry participants, yeah, they are very educated because they start earning money. As I said, Instagram, TikTok, singers, they're earning money and they know how to do it, yeah. But others, like again, yeah, the painters, for example, they have no sense, nothing. So it's probably not really a kind of, and it's probably, that is a question they have to kind of understand, that the question of money is a crucial in their business. So maybe that's what they need to understand. And when they get that, they can present their projects with everybody else and actually get some funding. But yes, I agree that our generally government, yeah, does not divide creative industry as such and important at the moment. Maybe because they have other different problems, more crucial, I guess, you know. That's kind of.
I think the fact that we are developing the concept of creative, of development, of supporting creative industries right now is really a good news for us, because I think a lot of things is going to change, and honestly, hoping that there will be more funding opportunities. One is that something is has been noted by Larry is crowdfunding and family supports. I think this is true to Kazakhstan in a smaller level. If someone could comment from other countries, that would be really interesting. I think family support is something that really our businesses survive on, especially during the pandemic, because family connections are really strong. Family businesses are really strong as well. And this is, I think, one of the only real financial instruments that exists right now in Kazakhstan. Dear colleagues, I see Sayasat sharing here some articles, I think articles or books. Thank you very much, Sayasat. I think this would be really useful if you want to comment.
No, not really. It's just some of the great books I'm reading for the moment.
Yes,
I just wanted to share with you on creative economy, entrepreneurship, and creative, some food for thought. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, and I really hope that this discussion brought a lot of food for thought for all of the participants. And if you allow me, I would like to bring a small resume that I have had doing some notes during your talks. And I think if we are talking about creative professions today, we should understand that markets, the job market, the working market really give birth to new professions and kills new professions really fast. The reality is changing so fast that we have to finally forget that we are on the post-Soviet kind of position and should carry on. And I think some of the examples that the speakers had shared, the kind of experiment mode that a lot of our countries are working in right now, in any market, especially job market and especially creative job markets, is maybe a successful kind of way for developing more well thought strategies on developing creative professions market. really interesting note for me was that the language really defines what we consume. I think language especially defines creative people, because this is the mindset, the worldview it really goes through the language, and I think it's really important for us. It is important for all the stakeholders of this big ecosystem to understand the reality that the young people are living in right now, the universities, the creative entrepreneurs themselves, and especially the government, even though it had been noted that we should not really hope for the change from the government and bring the change ourselves. There is a lot of examples, especially noted from Creative Spark project that we are all part of, that has been moving the situation, has been changing the situation with the attitude towards creative professions. I think this is really important. This is the impact of the project, and every one of us who are working in this project are the kind of impact and change bringers. And I'm really grateful for you, for everyone who is doing this work with Creative Spark right now, and generally with creative professions. Thank you very much for your participation. Thank you for your time. Thank you to the British Council for organizing this event. I'm really happy to spend this 2 hours together with you. Sorry for technical issues, and we will be happy to see you on the next events organized together with our Center of Creative Industries and the British Council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, colleagues. Yes. Thank you, dear speakers. Thank you, Dana. Thank you, Almaty and Creative Industries Center for partnering with us and organizing this. And thank you, Dana, for facilitation. We hope to see everyone now next We Talk, and hope that it will be a good tradition in our region. Thank you very much once again for your input, dear speakers.
Thank you. Nice meeting you all.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.